Hello trainers, Ganeto here, and today we're diving into Nemesis Cup with a cool team builder. We're gonna see together what is allowed, what is not, the meta, the picks specifically, and at the same time we're gonna build together, we're gonna learn how to build together an effective team using an infographic, and at the same time we're gonna be competitive with that same team. Let's see what we have here. Silph Arena has just unleashed Nemesis Cup, and it is gonna be the themed cup for April. It is gonna last from 1st of April till the last day of April, so stay tuned for that. And we're gonna have to use Pokemon that are part Psychic, Bug, Fire, Water, Dark, Grass and Ice. You can use Shadows as well, but all those typings must be dual types. What does that mean? You cannot use something like a Hypno because it is only a Psychic type. You cannot use something like a Blastoise because it is only a water type, but you can use something like an Empoleon because it is part water and part steel. Got it? Got it. This is what dual types mean. And shadows are allowed, as we said, and that is pretty exciting because most of the time shadows are banned and this time are allowed, so that may give you more flexibility in using some specific Pokemon. So what is not allowed though are gonna be Pokemon that are part or share those roles on their typings: fairies, flyers, grounds, fighting, ghost and normals. So all those typings, those 6 typings are not allowed at all in the current meta. We have to ban at the same time that Escavalier and Megas are also not allowed as usual, so the monotypes are not gonna be allowed in the meta overall. You have to use only dual types. Got it? This is a really huge deal. You cannot use monotypes. No Blastoises, no Hypnos, no whatever else, no Melmetals or whatever. You have to use only dual types. Okay, with that said, now let's see what else we have here. Silph Arena obliges us to use some certain Pokemon for 2 slots. We have to pick a fighter, and the fighter must be one of those Pokemon: Blaziken, Poliwrath, Flygon, Lucario, Chestnut, Obstagoon, this weird Pangoro, Quagsire, Galate and Excadrill. We have to use a fighter, and at the same time we have to use an anti-fighter option, which is gonna be one of the following: Noctowl, Gengar, Dedenne, Frostlass, Gyarados, Charizard, Gurgeist, I hope I said that correctly, Mawile, Galarian Rapidash and Jumpluff. We have to use one fighter, we have to use one anti-fighter, and we're gonna talk in the end about those picks specifically, because now we have to talk about your first slot in the team. Whenever I start building a team, I always start with a safe choice that goes pretty well against anything, but it also might lose, but the losses are gonna be soft. That slot is gonna be called Generalist. You can call it whatever you want, but it is gonna be the slot 1. So for this slot we got Empoleon, Drapion, Zweilous, Ferrothorn, Incineroar, which is pretty interesting, Walrein and Abomasnow. I really like all of those Pokemon. They can go pretty hard on the meta, and even against a fighter, some of those are gonna lose standard square, if not all of them, but you can still pressure them down with your moves and absolutely take a couple of shields. So Walrein is pretty spammy. I like this Pokemon. It has access to a nuke for some potential nukes against some steel types. You can see that some steel types exist, like the Empoleon in the same slot, or something like an Excadrill or a Mawile, whatever. You can just finish it off with a pure Earthquake. Icicle Spear is just amazing as a move in combination with that Powder Snow. You know how good on Silph Cups this Empoleon is. Whenever it is available, most people tend to use it because not only it is a counter to that Walrein, but at the same time provides a lot of resistances, and I really love this defensive side of Empoleon. Offensive wise, it is kinda slow on charging up the moves, but Waterfall really does a lot of damage and it will help you farm down some certain things. Drapion is a spammy Pokemon and is considered as a safe switch most of the times in the Silph Cups because of its unique typing, the part poison, part dark. It is only weak to the ground types, and this Pokemon really does a lot of damage with its moveset, and you have a chance to debuff the opponent with a potential crunch. Ferrothorn is also amazing, and because there are some ice Pokemon over here, perhaps, I say perhaps, you might need Flash Cannon over that Thunder. Not a lot of flyers because they are all banned, and the potential flyers that you might see out there are gonna be the anti-fighter section, and there are not many, okay? Only Charizard, Gyarados and Noctowl. Oh, and Zabluff, but Zabluff takes neutral from Thunder, so why not use your Flash Cannon this time? We got here the Zweilous, which is a really nice Pokemon to use if you're looking for something to pressure down the opponent with Dragon Breath. It really does a great job with that. Steel types are not gonna be that much of a thing for this cup. They are gonna be there, as we said, with Empoleon, Excadrill and stuff like that, but why not use something like a Zweilous? This Pokemon is pretty good on pressure dunk the opponent. It has access to Body Slam, and with the slow charge up from the Dragon Breath, you can get ahead with Body Slams because it is a low energy cost move. Abomasnow is another spammer alongside Walrein. It does not the work that Walrein does, but it can help you more against water type threats because of the fact that you have access to Energy Ball and you deal super effective damage, unlike the Walrein, which does neutral. And yeah, that's something that you should always take note of when using Abomasnow over Walrein. Incineroar, I left it for the last one to discuss about it. Incineroar is the newest addition to the Pokemon Go in total move roster, yeah, something like that. Incineroar does a lot of damage. It can apply a lot of pressure to the opponent, especially with Fire Fang. I don't know if Fire Fang or Snarl is a better option, it's up to you to decide, but I think that Snarl might help you a little bit more. It has access to Dark Pulse and Flame Charge, yes, so perhaps you might want to use Fire Fang if you want to vamp up your Fire Fangs. What did I say? You might want to use Fire Fang if you want to vamp up your Flame Charges, or the opposite. You might want to use Flame Charge if you want to vamp up your Fire Fangs. Okay, Ganeto, you finally said it. So that's pretty cool for Incineroar, and I really think that it will be a great asset for any team out there. If you do not have one though, don't be worried. You can always use something else from this section. When your thoughts are cleared, now it is time to move forward into slot 2, the bug section. This section is pretty huge and you can pick whatever you want. However, you must take a note that your opponent might use a flyer from the anti-fighter section. I know that flyers are gonna be banned, but anti-fighter provides some really cool exceptions to the rule. So perhaps you need a bug type that it is gonna work like an anti-flyer, because if you do not have an anti-flyer, perhaps your opponent might pick a Noctowl and just sweep you over, and that is gonna be bad for the Nemesis Cup, especially if you have a weighted one on your hands. So Crustle and Galvantula are gonna help you with that role. They pretty much farm down the flyers, they can go pretty hard on them, and also Galvantula has access to launch. Next up we have Wormadam, which is a pretty cool anti-meta pick and at the same time a safe pick as well. It is not considered an anti-meta though that much because of the fact that it is kinda slow on its moves. You're gonna go with Confusion to pressure down the opponent. It is more like a pressuring down Pokemon, especially with your hard hitting moves to take some shields from your opponent. Bug Buzz really does a lot and has a chance to debuff the opponent, which is really cool, and Ironhead will be used most of the times for some neutral damage. For the mirror, I think that Ironhead is better, but if you can go for the debuff with that Bug Buzz, things can change for sure for your Wormadam. Ariados will also be here on that current section, and you're gonna see that Ariados really can pressure down the opponent pretty much like that Galvantula. However, you do not have access to that Volt Switch. You have Poison Sting, which is kinda weird. It is not gonna farm down that easy the opponent and then go back to back launches, but still you are gonna be in a very fortunate position when you are still going for that boost with Cross Poison or go with Mega Horn for the nuke. Forretress is gonna be perhaps the best candidate for this bug section to sign out, since it is gonna be part steel and part bug. This Pokemon works pretty well against the fighters, somehow, but it still works well and can go pretty hard on the anti-fighters as well. This Pokemon has access to Rock Tomb, which can pretty much surprise the flyers and still debuff the opponent for any neutral threat out there. Go for the Earthquake for the nuke down, especially against some certain steel types. You can still use Mirror Shot to go for the debuff to the opponent, and overall this Pokemon seems like a really solid option. It has a lot of soft wins and soft losses, which is kinda weird for a Pokemon, but I really like it because it is kinda a safe pick. It shares the same typings like Wormadam, but this one hits harder. And finally we have the Beedrill and Scolipede. Both of those Pokemon pretty much serve the same role, but with one exception. Beedrill has access to that Shadow form, and at the same time it can use its Community Day move, that Drill Run, to finish off some unsuspected opponents. I really like Beedrill on this cup, and I pretty much prefer it over Scolipede, but if you do not want a Drill Runner or your team, perhaps Scolipede is a better answer for your line of 6. Overall, that's all for the bug types. Write down in the comment section if you have any questions that I didn't cover for the current meta. So with that said, now let's move forward into slot 3. Anti-metas really fit in the meta pretty much well. They go pretty well against the fighters, they have a chance to break down to no HP the anti-fighters, and the slot 1, the Generalists, are also getting troubled by the anti-metas. So slot 3 here only lose to the bug types, and with the bug types out of the way, you might have another soft glass cannon safe switch pick for your team. We have here Venusaur, which is pretty good against anything, but it loses fair and square to bug types. You can see that it can threat even a whole Wolverine down to no HP with a simple Frenzy Plant. This Pokemon is absolutely a nuker. I really love its damage, and it's pretty much one of the favorite Pokemon for most trainers because it is a Gen 1 starter. Yeah, who doesn't like Venusaur? Okay, a lot of you don't like Venusaur, but I like it. I really like Venusaur. So next one we have Raichu, which is most likely a glass cannon of its own because it is super glassy, it has access to wild charges, it can really charge up to those wild charges pretty fast, unleash them back to back, then bail out or whatever. So anti-metas can really work as a lead option as well. I like this Pokemon, this Raichu. It can go pretty well against anything. It doesn't have a clear weakness, to be honest. Even against a dark type you can still hit it hard with back-to-back wild charge and still bring it to no HP. So consider using Psychic as well because some poison types still exist in the current meta. And with that said, now let's move forward into the Malamar. So this Pokemon is kinda weird. I do not like it. I do not have one, to be honest, because I don't like it. And this Pokemon can go pretty spammy against anything. Yeah, that's the good news for Malamar. Drawback, I don't like it. Advantage, yeah, it is pretty good on the spam side. It can go pretty well with Psycho Cut and that foul play to the opponent. It has access to superpower for any neutral threat, and I think it has access to Psybeam to nuke down any unsuspected threat. So why not use this Pokemon as an anti-meta option? It can, with a whole Ice Beam, you can finish off any fighter out there with ease. Next up we have the Hisuian Electrode, a Pokemon which can go pretty well against the fighters. It can simply be used as an anti-flyer as well, but it is losing again straight and square to the bug types. Every single one from this lot is losing straight and square to the bug types, but you can see that Hisuian Electrode can still hit hard with those back-to-back wild charges. If your opponent has a water type, then you can still go for a wild charge or just go with the Energy Ball for the heavy non-debuffing move. And finally we have the Roserade, which is a pretty cool Pokemon. You can use it with Poison Jab to pressure down the opponent, or just go Bullet Seed to go with more Weather Balls against the enemy. And I really like this option because it also has access to Leaf Storm, which is a nuke move, a really nice option to use, especially against a neutral threat. With that said, I think that slot 3 is absolutely amazing. You must pick at least one of those Pokemon. Bug types are gonna be your main concern, I guess, but still with anti-meta being so strong against the whole meta, that's why it is called anti-meta, I think you can still go pretty hard on bug types if you have them with energy advantage. Time to talk about the fighters and the anti-fighters, of course, but let's start off with the fighters. Okay, Silph Arena this time obliges us to pick one fighter and one anti-fighter. So for the slot 4 we're gonna have the fighters, and for the slot 5 we're gonna have the anti-fighters. Got it? Got it. So from those two sections we have some Pokemon, actually all of those I think are banned Pokemon. You cannot normally use them, so those two categories are some exceptions to the rule. So we have Blaziken, Poliwrath, Flygon, Lucario, Chestnut, Pangoro, Obstagoon, Gallade, Quagsire and Excadrill to fill in the spot of the fighter. I really like all of those options, but it's all up to you what you need. When you have built your slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, now you have a more clear way to decide what your team needs to be more competitive and effective against anything, to cover most of your weaknesses. So if you have picked for example a Walrein, a Forretress and a Roserade, perhaps something like a Gallade might feel better for you. I do not like Gallade, however, for the Nemesis Cup and Excadrill because they are too glassy. However, you can always use them on your team, and when you have decided what to use from here, you can always go to the anti-fighter. But before we hop there, let's talk about the fighters specifically. We have Blaziken, which is pretty much a glass cannon and can go pretty hard against anything, especially with Brave Bird, but you're gonna struggle against some confusing users like Wormadam a lot. They can simply farm you down. You can still threat them with a Blaze Kick, but they're gonna farm a lot of energy out of you. Next up you have Poliwrath, which is kinda a tanky fighting option and also has access to the debuffing move the Scald, or just go with Hydro Bomb to destroy down your enemy's dreams. Flygon is also here as a nuker. It is pretty solid against the meta. I really love this Pokemon. This Pokemon can go with Dragon Claw for spam and Earth Power, or even Earthquake for some more, for heavier actually nukes. If you're wondering, we need a pure counter Pokemon that it is not weak to that water typing, then you need a fighter with a lot of resistances. And when you say resistances, yeah, steel typing really comes into mind. So here comes now Lucario, which can just pressure down the opponent, and if you can farm down the opponent correctly, you can still go for a powered up Shadow Ball, which can just nuke down anything. It can even deal heavy damage against a dark type Pokemon. Chestnut is always a very good anti-flyer option as a grass type because of its smackdown, or just use Vine Whip to charge up faster to your move superpower. And I think Grassnot, yeah, really work well for this specific Pokemon. Obstagoon is also here on the list, which is a really good one to use. You know how great Obstagoon is in the Ultra League and Great League of Go Battle League, so why not use it here as well? This Pokemon is pretty spammy. If you can get the boost, you can overcome a lot of your weaknesses. So Obstagoon, a really solid choice, especially with fairies not being allowed and fighters as well. Pangoro is another cool pick for you to pick. Too many picks over here, and it has a toothpick on its mouth. Yeah, so Pangoro with Snarl can go pretty easily with double close combat to close some really cool matches for you and provide you the advantage, or even just take 2 shields and then you are gonna have the advantage anyways. Quagsire, especially a sad one, can really nuke down almost anything. I have one and perhaps I'm gonna use it for this cup. This Quagsire is absolutely amazing. I love this Pokemon. It can be used as a generalist because it has access to that Earthquake, which can deal super effective damage to the steel types and at the same time finish off even some unsuspected neutral opponents. And you have Stone Edge for a cheaper nuke move, and you can hit hard the flyers as well. At the same time, we have here that Gallade, which is pretty cool as we said before. I really like this Pokemon as a confusion user and has access to some heavy hitting moves, so really a really good pick to use for sure. Excadrill will also be on the list because this one is a glass cannon as well. It has access to Mudshot, which can really charge up your rock slides and drill runs pretty much fast. So let's move forward now into the slot 5 after we have finished off with the fighter role slot 4, and now here we have the slot 5. Now we have the anti-fighters. So here we have some really cool banned Pokemon that are another exception to the rule. Let's start off with Noctowl. This Pokemon is pretty heavy, it's pretty tanky, it can unleash a Shadow Ball to the opponent or just go with back-to-back Sky attacks. A really cool Pokemon to have on your team and a really worth to having one. So with that said, now let's move forward into Gengar. Now Gengar is most likely a safe switch for this cup. I really like it with Focus Blast on the Ultra League, but here on Great League it's pretty glacier, so you have to use this Pokemon with some precaution. You have to use Shield to protect it. You can go of course with back-to-back Shadow Punches for some more pressure, especially with the combination of Shadow Claw, and you can go for the nukes if you do not like Focus Blast with Sludge Bomb, which is not gonna be a huge deal for this cup, and you are gonna use Shadow Ball much more often. The Dean is a tanky electric type option, which is part fairy, and fairies are banned, so the Dean might prove to be really worthy for that anti-fighting role. I really like it, not only as anti-fighter but as a generalist as well, because it can really put down to no HP with a simple player of dark type, or just go pretty hard with a discharge standard shock spam. Frostlass is an amazing closer, you know how good that Pokemon is. We're gonna use it on the Halloween Cup for sure, and this one is absolutely amazing as a closer, of course, because with energy ahead this Pokemon has almost no weaknesses. Gyarados will apply a lot of damage. Personally, I have a double legacy one with Dragon Tail, Aqua Tail, Double Tail, and this Pokemon has never let me down. I have used it on my factions and Gyarados is pretty much amazing. I really recommend to you to use it if you have the elite TMs to spare, because this one is definitely a spicy pick, but at the same time it can provide a lot of damage to the opponent. Charizard, same as Gyarados, a really spicy one, a really glassy one, but if you can play it correctly, your opponent will be left with no choices pretty quickly. Mawile will help you with some flyers, will help you with some dragons, especially with the Duelus matchup. It can power up punch its Funk, so you can call it a power up Funk. I always make that pun, and I have a Shadow rank 1 Mawile on my own, so perhaps I'm gonna use it over Gyarados, but I have to see. Yeah, this is pretty challenging for me. It is quite the dilemma. Gurgeist is a really cool pick to use. A really hard hitting one for sure. You can use it with this to destroy down your opponents with your Shadow Balls, or just go with the Hex Seed Bomb combo, which is pretty spammy, and your opponent will be left with no choices pretty quickly as well. So Galarian Rapidash here is gonna be a spammy option with Psycho Cut and Body Slam. You can always use, I think it has Psychic, I'm not sure, I don't know what other moves it might have, Megachron perhaps, I'm not sure, but this Pokemon is really cool on the offensive side, because defensively it doesn't do that good overall. And Zambluff, you know how great that Pokemon is, especially after the community day. It is pretty much like a Tropius, but Tropius is not allowed, but Zambluff is, so why not use Zambluff? It provides a lot of coverage against the meta. It has access to acrobatics, which does a fairly good amount to anything, and you also have Energy Ball, especially with Bullet Seed, which can charge it up pretty quickly as well. So that's all for the fighters and anti-fighters, and now let's move forward into the last slot. The last slot is all gonna be about what you have to use for yourself. What are you missing? What do you think that will cover better your team? So the last slot for my team builders is always a filler slot. So you can use something like a double bug, a double water, a double ice, a double grass, whatever you want, you can use it here. You can double up your resources to cover up some certain weaknesses and provide more coverage against the meta. You can either spice up your team, use something like a Mr. Rhyme, I think that's a Mr. Rhyme, right? With Icy Wind, it can really prove to be really useful for your team composition. This Pokemon is pretty good on the offensive side. I don't know how cool it is on the defensive one, but I think that it is part Ice, part Psychic, and that can be really handful for you. Use a Jirachi because that Pokemon is it's a pretty good option since it has access to both the Steel typing defensively and the Psychic one, providing a lot of resistances. You know how good defensively Metagross is, so this is a kinda great league level Metagross for your team that you might need. Jirachi with Doom Desire and Confusion can really turn around a lot of matches. And if you're wondering what can I use for more bench pressure, well, Dugong and Lantern can help you with that. Lantern is pretty high on the rankings, but I just feel it is kinda soft overall for the meta. It is a pretty cool anti-fire, anti-flying pick. You can use it to nuke down opponents with Hydro Pump, but if your opponent is a Lantern, perhaps they will think twice before using their Noctowl in there. So using the slot 6 as a bench pressure machine, it can really work well for your team. You cannot use it, you do not have actually to use it for a single match, just use it to pressure down the opponent in doing some bad mistakes when picking their line of 3 to face you up. Mind games are always part of Silph Arena's caps, so why not use something like a Lantern or Dugong to pressure down the opponent? That's all, traders. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a wonderful time watching this graph. Perhaps it is gonna help you. Here is a picture that you can take. Feel free to use it, it's absolutely free, and you're gonna have a ton of fun building a team with this graph. You have the slot 1 the Generalist, slot 2 the bugs, slot 3 the anti-metas, slot 4 the fighters, slot 5 the anti-fighters, and slot 6 is gonna be the filler option, which is all up to you. You think that bug types are really strong? Just go with double bug. You really think that your team is not too spicy? Just use a spicy Pokemon or just bench press or whatever. So overall, with this graph, you can do wonders when picking up a team for the Nemesis Cup meta. Thank you for watching, trainers. I hope you had a wonderful time with this video. Be sure to leave a like before you go, subscribe to the channel because I really need that for the channel to grow a little bit more. And with that said, I hope to see you all into the next one. Take care, everyone.